Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast. Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long night. And in today's episode of Obsidian Nights, we will be covering A Game of Thrones, Chapter 33, Eddard 8. And I have with me Salweezy or Steven. Steven, how you doing?
Doing great, Gray. How are you?
I'm great. Would you like to tell the people who you are and where they can find you?
Sure. I'm Steven. You can follow me on Twitter at Salweezy, SALWEEZY. I started watching Game of Thrones like season 5, I think, was on at the time. I was working at a restaurant and some friends of mine were super into it. South by Southwest was in Austin and they had the actual Iron Throne there. So a bunch of my friends took pictures on it and I was like, okay, this looks cool. So started watching the show, and then once season 7 was over and it looked like season 8 wasn't going to be out for a while, I read the books like twice before the next episode came out. So I was fully prepared. Now I just keep reading these books over and over again, listening to podcasts like this and watching YouTube, and really can't get enough.
While we wait for Winds of Winter or House of the Dragon.
My favorite thing is getting into a new podcast and you find they got episodes from like 2015 or 16 and they're like, man, you know, I can't wait till this book comes out. We'll have so much more content. And I'm like, man, you sweet summer children.
Right. That was only 5 years ago and we're still waiting. So today we get to talk about, I really am excited to talk about this chapter. It's a chapter I really like. It's not a long chapter. It's kind of short. But yeah, but there's a lot going on in the chapter that I think there's a lot of nuance that we can talk about.
Yeah.
So the chapter opens up with Ned Stark. He's in King's Landing. We're in Ned's head, and Ned is telling Robert to please do not kill Daenerys Targaryen. So they're in a small council meeting. It's Robert Baratheon's small council. And Ned doesn't want Robert to kill Daenerys, but Robert wants to kill her because Robert has found out that Daenerys is pregnant. Whew. So the interesting part to me is that the only people that stand up against Robert wanting to kill Daenerys is Ned Stark and Sir Barristan Selmy. Everyone else is kind of like, yeah, it's what needs to happen.
Right. Yeah. And Robert, you know, he starts off by saying that the threat is on the level of an axe hanging over his own neck. And Ned is like, dude, you're crazy. You know, there's no axe, only the shadow of a shadow, 20 years removed. And that just sums up Robert right there. He's stuck in the past. He thinks that everything is still going on. Like he's still fighting the rebellion every day. And he's crazy.
Yeah, Robert Baratheon hates. Like, hate isn't even the word. He loathes entirely.
Right. He wants to eliminate every single one of them.
Yes, and this is why he can't know about Jon Snow.
Right.
Because it won't matter what Ned Stark says. It won't matter how Ned Stark feels. Robert, his hate for Targaryens would make him kill Jon. Like, Rhaegar has been dead for years and years, but Robert still like dreams of killing him every night.
If there's a breath in Robert, you know, that Jon would never be safe with him knowing that he was actually a Targaryen. So it could never ever come out. He was the kind of guy that, you know, literally every single Targaryen has to die before he can rest easy. And it's completely nuts.
Yeah. And so Ned is trying to like talk some sense into Robert, and Robert is like, no, because the thing is, like, if Daenerys has a son, one, she could have a miscarriage. She could have a stillbirth. Like, we do see that she had a son, but her son died.
Right.
So it's not like Robert is trying to act on the possibility of something happening instead of something actually happening.
Exactly.
And it's kind of sad when you think about it, because this whole meeting never had to transpire because
right.
Rhaego was going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, like in hindsight, like this is kind of pointless, but this sets up so much, because this is what makes Ned ultimately say, you know, I can't do this. Like, I can't be your hand, which when he resigns as hand, which is why Jaime attacks him in the streets of King's Landing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a chain reaction of event that didn't need to happen.
What's nuts about this small council meeting is that, as, you know, while it's going on, Ned realizes there's no talking to these people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's nothing he's going to do, because even, you know, spoiler alert, later in the chapter, he kind of gets up and leaves. They're still talking about, okay, so how are we going to kill her exactly? Should we send a faceless man? You know, should we just put a huge bounty on her head, like, you know, offer a lordship or whatever? And Ned just can't believe it. He shakes his head, like, literally the entire time.
Yeah, it's like, to him, it just doesn't make sense, because Ned is like, you know, well, like, the whole reason we overthrew House Targaryen was to end the murder of children. And Robert is like, no, we overthrew them to end Targaryens.
Yeah.
We don't care about the murder of children.
Were they fighting the same war?
Right. So, like, I do like that Ned. See, this is one thing I like about Ned. Ned isn't very smart, like, politically. I don't even want to say it's like that he's not smart, but he's so honorable, and he's honorable to a fault, that he just says what he says. Like, he just says what he means. He says, "Your Grace, I never knew you to fear Rhaegar." Ned fought to keep the scorn out of his voice and failed. Had the years so unmanned you that you tremble at the shadow of an unborn child? And Robert is like, no more, not another word. Like, Ned is not biting his tongue when it comes to this. Like, he's not biting his tongue about how he feels. And he, like, Ned uses Sir Barristan as an example. Like, yes, Sir Barristan was your enemy, and you didn't let Roose Bolton kill him. You patched him up, and now he serves in your Kingsguard. And, like, I wish that same Robert was here today, but Robert doesn't exist when it comes to Targaryens. Right.
And in a chapter this short, it's like 5 or 6 pages, that little Sir Barristan story, man, on rereads, that is just so cool to see in there.
Yeah, it is.
Especially how he comes back, he, you know, switches back to the Targaryens and everything. And yeah, I also wrote down here another little quote where Ned says, you send hired knives to kill a 14-year-old girl and still quibble about honor.
Oh, yeah, because they were like, so Varys suggests Tears of Lys. He's like, yeah, Tears of Lys. The Dothraki will never know that it's not a natural death. And to this, Maester Pycelle looks up from his fucking sleep. Like, his spidey senses start tingling, because Grand Maester Pycelle knows damn well that Jon Arryn was killed with the Tears of Lys. Maester Pycelle is not stupid. And Maester Pycelle is definitely covering for what he knows, because he's definitely, I feel, complicit in all of the Jon Arryn's murder. So Varys bringing up the Tears of Lys wakes Maester Pycelle right up and makes him look at him, look at Varys sideways, like, oh, what's up with him? What does he know?
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I'm so glad that this chapter has Varys and Pycelle and Littlefinger, because honestly, those are like some of my favorite characters in the whole series. Not because I'm rooting for them or anything, but anytime they're in a scene, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. And they bring depth. Like they bring to me, they bring depth to the scenes that they're in.
Yes.
And they do really, like, even this scene, they're each offering up a way to kill a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
So like there's this Renly is like, we can send Ser Jorah Mormont. He wants a pardon. So let's just send him. But like,
right.
But Varys is like, no, the Dothraki, like you don't even want to know. Like you wouldn't even be able to sleep if you knew what they would do to him for pulling a sword on a Khaleesi. And then Varys suggests poison, and then
right.
And then you have Littlefinger. And then Ned's like, this is all bullshit. If you want her dead, the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
Right.
And then Littlefinger brings up the Faceless Men. And there's a lot about this that makes me kind of look at Littlefinger sideways.
Okay.
He brings up the Faceless Men, and he knows how much they would cost.
Yeah, doesn't he like bring them up, but then he like bats the idea down, kind of?
Yeah, like they would charge such and such to kill this person. I don't even want to know what they would charge for a Khaleesi, for a princess.
You could hire an entire army of sellswords for the price of one Faceless Man, and that's just for a merchant. That's what he says.
Yeah, right. So it's funny that he knows the cost, because I was talking to Joe Magician about this like a while back, and it is interesting that he knows the exact price. I'm thinking like maybe they just know the price, and because his family's from Bravos, maybe he
right. Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like, did he consult with Jaqen about killing someone, a merchant, to get that price? And if it was a merchant, was it Illyrio? Like, I have a feeling that Littlefinger called the Faceless Men to the Red Keep, however, like, come to the Red Keep. But I don't even know if it would work like that. Like, would the Faceless Men, wouldn't you have to go to them? Or, like, would they come to you? But I feel like Littlefinger and Varys had like this chess match going on, and Illyrio was in King's Landing in the last Arya chapter talking with Varys. So I wonder if Littlefinger wanted to try to use the Faceless Men to kill Illyrio, who is a merchant or a trader.
Yeah. Well, when Arya is at the House of Black and White, there aren't that many Faceless Men there, are there?
No.
And so where are they? Jaqen's in Westeros doing whatever he's doing. How many other? And that's the thing about him, is that you would literally never know.
It's wild. But I wonder, it really makes me wonder, when Joe brought it up, I was like, does that mean, like, was Littlefinger plotting on Illyrio? Good thing Illyrio got away, or good thing Littlefinger couldn't afford the Faceless Men.
Right. I mean, if when hearing that, I'm like, wow, I would never think of that, because I wouldn't think Littlefinger has that kind of foresight, I guess. He's more, when I think of Littlefinger, I don't know if he plans out that far ahead, because sometimes he's shooting from the hip, like blatantly lying about the dagger to Cat to her face, and what else. I'm baffled at that decision on his part. Like, why just plant a lie? It doesn't seem like, he probably could have picked a better lie, but I mean, I guess it got the job done in the end. But yeah, I guess I might be underestimating him. He could probably be capable of anything.
I mean, really, but he is more of a, I do think he thinks ahead. I don't really want to know how, I don't really, not that I do want to know, but I don't know how far ahead he thinks. I do think that he thinks, a little ahead. I do think he's a snake, but he does shoot off the hip sometimes.
Right.
And it's really like only Littlefinger really knows what Littlefinger wants. So only Littlefinger knows what Littlefinger wants.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say, well, he thought this far ahead or whatever, because only he knows how crazy his mind works. And we don't have a POV from him to really know what his true intentions are. We just know that he's a sneaky, slimy, snaky snake of a man.
That's true. Man, that'd be crazy, because I always feel like the Varys and Illyrio thing, I always wonder, like, how deep does that go? And if, Littlefinger's already, hip to the idea and everything.
I'm sure Littlefinger knows something.
Right.
I'm 100% sure he doesn't know about Aegon. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't, like, I think it's common knowledge that Varys and Illyrio worked together in Essos before Varys came to work for the Mad King. Okay. So I'm pretty sure he knows that they're close, but I don't think he knows that they're conspiring on the same level that he's conspiring.
Right. They're like on the same train track there.
Yeah. All of them are conspiring for a bunch of chaos. So really, you guys are opposites, but you're playing for the same damn team.
Right. Yeah. And that's honestly why I love those characters, especially these small council guys, man.
Yeah. The only one I really can't stand is Maester Pycelle. I just cannot stand him. I just cannot stand. I feel like Cersei. Every breath you draw in my presence annoys me.
Yes, that line. Oh man.
So basically, Ned is like, I'm done. He takes off his badge and he says, "I thought you were a better man. I wish the next person luck with working with your dumbass." And it puts Ned in a bad position. He didn't think it through. And that's the issue I have with Ned. You can't ever just lie. You can't just say, "Okay, we're gonna kill her," and then go to your room and make your plans to leave. Why do you have to honestly, to his face, tell him you resign?
Right.
And then because Ned knows there's a lot at stake. He has his daughters there with him. He just got news from Yoren that Catelyn has taken Tyrion. So that whole thing, he's got that whole situation to deal with. Jon Arryn is dead. There's a lot going on where you should still be handed the king, because that's something that's protecting you.
Right. Yeah.
And he just if you are attacked, if you're still handed the king, Jaime can't attack you in the streets of King's Landing. Jaime can't kill Jory, because an attack on you would be an attack on the king.
Right.
But he doesn't think that far ahead. We know he doesn't think that far ahead.
He's thinking of one thing, and it's honor.
Yes. And I think, just to throw this out there with Ned is so passionate about protecting Daenerys, I believe, because of Jon. Ned has a Targaryen in his family that he loves very much, and it's his nephew, Jon. And Ned would want someone to fight for Jon the way that Ned is fighting for Daenerys.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
So a lot of the passion that is coming from Ned isn't just because, oh, wow, you're killing a child. It also has a lot of ties back to Jon and those emotions that Ned has for his nephew. And how similar the situation is between Jon and Daenerys.
Yeah. And Robert, 20 years later, is still, thirsty for that Targaryen blood. And if let's say he was successful in killing Daenerys Targaryen and her baby, who's next?
Yeah. He's seeing Targaryens in every shadow. So Ned leaves. Robert's basically like, I'm going to put your head on a spike. Ned leaves and goes back to the Tower of the Hand, and he gets his head steward, which is Van Poole, which is Gene Poole's dad. And he's like, we got to go to Winterfell. But Van Poole's like, it's going to take 2 weeks for us to like get everything together to go to Winterfell. Because Winterfell is far away, but like, they have to like get food for the road. They have to get like pack all their shit up, and they have to get horses and men and guards. Like they have to do all of this stuff just to travel. There's no getting on your dragon that they don't have, or getting in your car that they don't have. Like,
right.
They have to prepare.
He brought like his entire household just about. And, there's the scene where, this is probably, later on, but, when Ned is sitting the Iron Throne because Robert's not there, and he has to send Beric Dondarrion out, and he's like, take some of my men. I forget how many, but he's like, take 20 or 50 of my men. Or whatever. And it's like, wow,
yeah.
how many people did he bring with him?
And he gave them all away so easy. Like,
yeah,
he gave some to Janis Slynt, like to help control the city when the tourney, like he's always giving away his men. And I'm like, no, like you need to be keeping them around you. Like they need to protect you. Even Arya knew that in the last chapter. Like it's crazy to me the way he just gives them away. But he did take a lot of people with him, because in the North, like Rob had to make appointments, like new appointments. Like they took everybody with him. So Ned,
and Maester Luwin was like taking inventory of everything because there's no steward there.
Yep, there was no steward. Yep. So Ned actually like thinks back on Winterfell, like fondly, like he's missing home, right?
Right. Yeah. He's in his head. He's made his mind up, and now he's like, oh, I can't wait to get back home now.
Yeah, he wants to go home. And he's thinking about taking a ship, like him and his daughters going ahead, because he doesn't feel safe.
Right. Yeah. It'd be quicker and safer.
Yeah. He says, it might be safest if I went on ahead. I will take my daughters and a few guardsmen. The rest of you can follow when you are ready. Inform Jory, but tell no one else, and do nothing until the girls and I have gone. The castle is full of eyes and ears, and I would rather my plans were not known. So he goes and he sits by the window and he's brooding. And he says, it would be good to return to Winterfell. He ought never have left. His sons were waiting there. Perhaps he and Catelyn would make a new son together when he returned. They were not so old yet. And of late he had often found himself dreaming of snow and the deep quiet of the Wolf's Wood at night. And yet the thought of leaving angered him as well. So much was still undone. So I thought it was interesting that while Ned is in King's Landing, he's dreaming of snow and of the Wolf's Wood. And I kind of feel like it resembles death a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's peaceful.
Right.
And nothing in Essos is peaceful. So for him to be dreaming of the stillness of the Wolf's Wood and snow, like snow, really? It just seems like death. Okay, he's about to die.
Yeah, no, that's a great little bit of foreshadowing right there.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like that passage is sad because he's like thinking of Winterfell and going home and being with Catelyn and making another son, and we know that it's never going to happen.
That line, they were not so old yet. That's like on a reread. That's tough.
It's tough. And like just dreaming of snow and the deep and knowing that he's never going to see snow again. And knowing that he's never going to experience the deep quiet of the Wolf's Wood at night. Like he's never going to experience that. Like as miserable as he is in King's Landing, like he's never going to get to leave. So he's talking about taking the ship, and he wants to see Stannis Baratheon because Ned has sent him a letter like to return to King's Landing because Stannis just up and left. Ned hasn't heard anything back from him, but Ned is for sure that Stannis knows whatever the secret is that got Jon Arryn murdered. And I think he knows it too. He does know it. And I think that's the reason he left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Stannis, he's wise to, what's going on there. And he knows that what's happening in King's Landing, it's coming after you. You think, oh, shoot, I just found out, that Jon Arryn was taken down and, the queen is unfaithful to the king kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that information is dangerous to possess, especially in a fantasy setting like that, in a place like King's Landing, where information is probably one of the most valuable things. I mean, take a character like Varys. That's pretty much the only currency that he deals with is information.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Ned is like, look, we need to find a fast ship, good captain. We need to get back. If we can get on a ship tomorrow, we need to be on it. But then in comes the chaos maker, Littlefinger.
Right.
And
Littlefinger,
at first,
he comes
Ned,
back in.
And at first, Ned wants to send him away. Like, Ned wants him out of there.
Right.
But
He's like, Littlefinger, I can't think of anybody, I'd rather see less right now.
Yeah. So Littlefinger, he's not through with the Ned yet, and he doesn't want Ned to leave, basically. Basically, Littlefinger says if Ned is still in the city tonight, that he will take him to a brothel. And at this brothel, basically, there's going to be some information that Ned needs, which is Bera, the little baby.
And that's going to be like the icing on the cake, pretty much. Like, what else does he need to see after that, to connect all the dots and everything? So Littlefinger definitely knows like what he's doing here. Ned's almost out of the situation, and Littlefinger just drops a little bit of chaos right there on top of it.
Yep, he's like, oh, no, not quite. I still need you.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like, have you ever been at a party or something and you want to leave, but like right at the door, somebody's like, oh, and then they launch into like, a 10-minute story that you probably never ever wanted to hear anyways.
Yeah.
So you can't go. You feel like you're being held hostage right there.
Yeah.
That's Littlefinger.
100%. 100%. So Littlefinger is kind of responsible for keeping Ned in King's Landing because Ned was like up out of there. But then when Ned finally puts the pieces together, it's like he cannot leave. He cannot leave. He has to stay because he already is conflicted about leaving. Like he wants to thank Robert, for leaving. But at the same time, like he's like, damn, there's still so much I haven't done and Robert's still not safe. And I still don't know what's going on with Jon Arryn. But I do know that somebody killed him. Like I know he was murdered. I just don't know why. And I don't know by who.
Right.
So there's a lot going on in this chapter, and it ends with the Master of Chaos keeping Ned in King's Landing. And that is Eddard 8 of A Game of Thrones. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much went over that entire chapter.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a long chapter. It's like, what 6 pages?
Yeah, it's a quick hitter, though. Like, it packs a little punch right there.
Oh yeah, because it has a lot of depth in it, like in a
I did want to just bring up how on a reread you notice that the beginning of A Game of Thrones is kind of front loaded with all these Ned chapters. Like I don't even think it's halfway through the book. We're on Ned 8.
Yes,
and then there's only a couple of Daenerys chapters. Then you get a chapter like this that's not a Daenerys chapter, but it's kind of about Daenerys.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the book, you get a lot of Daenerys, and the Eddard chapters are kind of spaced out a little bit, and then they kind of just drop off for good. But that's kind of a nice little harmony. That's definitely a Song of Ice and Fire right there.
It really is. And one thing I can say I definitely miss when you move on to A Clash of Kings is that there are no more Eddard chapters, because I really appreciate being in Ned Stark's head. Like, he's one of my favorite POV characters when it comes to the books.
Right. And we get a couple of Davos chapters, which is close, but not, it's not, good old dad.
Yeah. But it is close, and I do love Davos. I do love Davos too.
I hope there's like 10 Davos chapters in Winds of Winter.
I'm at least hoping for. I want some Barristan, which I'm sure we're gonna get some Barristan. I heard that we're gonna get some Barristan, and I want Davos. But I'm concerned that we aren't gonna have any Daenerys and Jon chapters. I'm concerned that in the whole book, I'm concerned that it's gonna be like A Feast for Crows, Dance of Dragons type of thing, where Winds of Winter is split into 2 books, because A Feast for Crows and A Dance of Dragons was supposed to be 1 book, and then we get a Feast for Crows, which is all like Arya, Brienne, Jaime, Cersei, no Jon, no Dany, and then we get a Dance of Dragons, which is mostly Jon and Dany.
Right. I mean, I always say that Feast for Crows is like my favorite book in the series, because I like the really long chapters. Like each chapter is like almost like a short story in its own right. But if we get another one of those, I don't know.
Yeah. See, I like A Feast for Crows. A Feast for Crows is one of my favorite books too. But the thing is that when I read A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons was already out.
Oh yeah. Me too.
So I didn't have to wait for.
Right. Yeah.
So I could see me not liking The Winds of Winter if it's like A Feast for Crows and I have to wait for A Dance with Dragons.
Maybe a good idea, some advice for George R.R. Martin if he's listening to this podcast. Maybe release the book with the Jon and Daenerys chapters first.
Yeah, I need to know like how Jon is going to be resurrected. I need to know how Daenerys is what she's gonna do to the Dothraki. What her like, I need to know.
Yes.
But, yes. That is Eddard 8. And if you want to be on an episode of the Obsidian Nights podcast, all you have to do is reach out to @NimsShadow on Twitter or Instagram, and she will schedule you. Also, you can join my Discord. The link will be in the description box. And I will leave Steven's Twitter in the description box, and you can go follow him on Twitter. And I hope you guys have a good night. Steven, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Gray.
No problem. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.